So, welcome everybody to another episode of the All Time High podcast. I am your host, General Moore, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about NFTs, what they are, how they work, why they're important, and everything in between. And today's episode is called "What the fuck is an NFT?" And I'm going to explain that to you guys. But first, of course, talk about a little bit of news. A lot of cool things happened this past week, and I'm excited to tell you guys about it. So, first thing is I'm just kind of gonna gloss over this. MicroStrategy bought more Bitcoin. Who's surprised? I think they bought like $10 million worth again. They just came. They buy the dip. MicroStrategy buys the dip every time. So it's pretty cool to see an institution like seriously invested in not just the future of Bitcoin, but also creating the future of Bitcoin. So that's dope. Mark Cuban said that they are exploring NFT ticket sales for his NBA team. So basically, I think they're already accepting cryptocurrency. They're going to be accepting more, but they're also starting to talk about issuing tickets as NFTs so that they're more verifiable and it's more transparent and kind of would eliminate a lot of that scalping and fraud. So that's really exciting news, I think. Also, a massive Canadian wealth management company called CI Financial filed for a Ethereum ETF. They currently manage about $230 billion in assets, so that's pretty big news in my opinion. An Ethereum ETF could bring a lot more institutional investment inside to the space, and that would be obviously really good for the price and just really good for everything. Additionally, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Ubisoft. They are a gaming giant, and they just partnered with a company called So Rare that has been minting basically NFT soccer cards for soccer teams. And they're planning to use So Rare's digital cards to basically start making fantasy games using those cards, which I think is a really cool application. Additionally, PayPal announced that they're going to be opening up a cryptocurrency division. So they're going to be exploring cryptocurrency really hard, and they're planning to let everybody basically accept crypto across their, like, I don't know, whatever, 29 million merchants or whatever it is. And lastly, and most excitedly, you guys have probably heard me talk about the EIP 1559, the Ethereum Improvement Proposal. It is officially slated to come out in the London hard fork in July. So that's really exciting news because that's essentially going to make it changes the economics of Ethereum a little bit, which I think is really fascinating. It may inadvertently bring gas fees down a bit, but it's not really the core focus. What it's really going to do is basically take a portion of that miner reward that used to go directly to miners and it's going to burn it off the network. Just that currency is just going to disappear. So we're basically Ethereum is going to be being burned daily, which is in essence, going to turn it and kind of into a deflationary currency where this, Ethereum is going to be more scarce. So a lot of people think it's going to drive the price up. But it's a good UX improvement. It should make gas prices and everything a little bit more clear. So I'm really excited for that. So that's really good news. But let's get into it. Let's talk about some NFTs. Yeah. So NFTs. NFT stands for non fungible token. Whoever just subscribed, I love you. I'm gonna go through any follows and subscriptions at the end of the episode, just to be clear with everybody. So, non-fungible token. Now, what the hell does that mean? What does fungible mean? So, fungibility is essentially a characteristic of currency, and what it basically means is that if you have an asset, let's say it's the U.S. dollar, that asset is tradable, on a 1-to-1 scale. If I give you $1 and you give me $1, it's still a dollar. You know what I mean? So in essence, fungibility means that you have something that kind of has like not necessarily stable value, but equal exchange in value. If that makes sense. So you can basically replace a certain item with another identical item. That's what fungibility means. So, but NFTs are non-fungible, so that means that their value is not fixed. That doesn't have an equal exchange. So there are a couple key components of what make an NFT, and I'm gonna go through those real quick. Actually, first, let me draw you guys a little diagram to give you an idea of what NFTs could be. So let's say you've got this NFT, you've got this token, right? This could literally be almost anything, like a T-shirt. This could be digital in-game items. In-game. This could be art. This could be documents. It could be almost anything. And basically what you're doing is you are attaching an NFT to any one of these items that is provable and verifiable. So let's talk about the key components, right? What makes an NFT special? Now, I think there are basically 6 primary components. So stay with me. 6 is a lot. First one being they're standardized. This basically means that there is now a universal standard to read and write data, in a sense. You kind of have this universal method for creating digital assets that is going to be readable by everything on Web 3.0. So instead of having images and data that isn't compatible with certain systems, you now have a universal standard that you can create items on so that it automatically works with everything, which I think is really fucking cool. To go along with that concept, it is interoperable. And this essentially means that NFTs can move between ecosystems. They can go between platforms at will without having to create a new account, without having to recreate the data or copy the data. The data just automatically is portable kind of to everything. I was actually showing one of my viewers earlier. I was moving between Rare and OpenSea and signing in with my wallet, and the NFTs that I had minted on Rare were already in OpenSea. I didn't have to do anything. It was pretty cool. So, in addition to it being interoperable, they are immutable. And immutable data essentially means that it's data that cannot be changed, the data that cannot be copied, and data that cannot be deleted. So when you mint an NFT, it kind of exists in perpetuity. Unless you are the sole owner of that NFT, you can essentially burn it. But I don't know why you want to do that, unless you're trying to clean something off the internet, I guess. But your NFT exists, it's real, and it's verifiable, and it's true. It's kind of what immutability means. So the next component, scarcity. This is a big problem in digital art. You have assets that you can't necessarily prove that they're scarce. What if I made a print and I made 5, but I only told you there was 1 and I sold it to you? You would have more. You would probably give it more value because there's only 1 of them. You know what I mean? This is actually provable scarcity. You can say, this is a singular piece, and they might have a number attached to it. It could be just 1, and then it's just 1 of 1. But you could also have 1 of 1,000, and that means that you can track and verify the scarcity, which is really cool. Also, tradability. These assets are able to be traded completely open and on pretty much any open marketplace on Web 3.0. Like I mentioned to you, I minted something on Rarible, but I can go sell it on OpenSea if I want. I can take these assets and take them somewhere else and sell them on a truly open market, and potentially earn royalties on it in perpetuity for forever. If I mint a digital art piece and I sell it for 1 Ethereum, if somebody else sells that for 2 Ethereum, I get 15% on that transaction. So every time it exchanges hands, I'm getting a piece. It's pretty neat. The next component, or the last one really, is programmability. And I think this is one of the things that is completely unique to NFTs. You can program NFTs to have particular characteristics or do certain things automatically. So for example, and I'm going to be talking a lot about CryptoKitties in this presentation, but CryptoKitties is a game, and they essentially have a breeding mechanic. So CryptoKitties have these unique qualities, and when you breed them, it uses basically RNG, or random number generator, to create a new CryptoKitty, and that's fully programmed inside of the NFT. That's not like something the platform is using the NFT to do. That's what the NFT is coded to do. It's pretty wild. So let's talk about how they work, because it's a lot of stuff, and I'm going to come back to those things. Don't worry, I won't let you guys forget. So how do NFTs work? We talked earlier about digital ownership, right? And NFTs are essentially a representation of your digital ownership, either over data or a particular item, something like that, right? But how are they created, and kind of, what is the process behind all that? So NFTs are minted in a lot of different ways. The most popular is to build them on Ethereum. Almost everything these days is just on Ethereum. And you can do that via two different token standards. So if you guys may recall, we've talked about the ERC20 token standard in previous episodes. If you guys are familiar, that's basically could be, it's a different type of asset. But the NFT token standards, there's two of them. There is ERC 721 and there's ERC 1155. ERC 721 is basically for singular, NFT assets. So this could be a particular art piece, something along those lines. And 1155 is actually more about like asset classes. So if you have, let's say you're playing a game and you have these in-game NFTs that are swords, and there might be 1,000 swords. It could be a part of a collection, right? There's 1,000 of them. So you've kind of created this new class of swords. And instead of having your ownership as like, I own this singular entity, you own, maybe it's 003 of this asset class. So those are two of the most popular ways. There are other blockchains that are doing this. The most popular one that is actually doing anything is called Flow. And Flow actually came out of CryptoKitties, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But basically, they built Flow because at the time Ethereum was too slow. Ethereum is still kind of too slow in a lot of ways for some of this stuff, but it will get better. And they have been responsible for some hugely successful projects like NBA Top Shots, CryptoKitties, some other stuff. So I'll talk about more of those later. But point being, Flow is really the only one that I think has made a dent in the NFT space, but there are other projects out there trying to do their own kind of wrappable tokens or NFT style stuff. But right now, Ethereum is the clear front runner. So to get back to kind of how NFTs work, this is a really hard concept to grasp. It took me a while. How are digital assets stored? How is the information stored? How does that work? Because we're talking about decentralization, right? So we're talking about assets that we're hopefully not storing on a centralized server, although in some of these cases they are. So first, let's talk about metadata. So you might be familiar with the term metadata. It's usually just a set of descriptors for a particular website or art piece or image that kind of describes what the image is, right? So you have this descriptive data that basically gets baked in to the smart contract. So when you code, when you mint an NFT, you're basically also including all of this descriptive data. Its title, its description. If you're doing something a little bit more complex like CryptoKitties, you might have certain traits for that kitty. All kinds of different things, right? So you are basically baking in this descriptive data into the NFT, right? And other applications can read that metadata and kind of see what's in there. But that doesn't really explain like where the actual image is stored. So if we're using an image as an example, there's a couple different ways that the image can be stored so that it can be read by other platforms. The first one, and probably the least likely right now, is on-chain storage. Now, on-chain storage basically means that you are actively storing that data. So if you have a 5 megabyte image, you are actually putting that data into the actual blockchain. So here's our blockchain, and all these are transaction data, and you're trying to squeeze your image into it, right? This is super inefficient, especially because gas fees are high and can cause a lot of congestion. So this isn't really happening a lot right now, but there are a lot of benefits. The benefits to on-chain storage are you have permanent data residence. So, like I said, this data is going to live here literally forever, which I think is pretty neat. And it also allows for persistence beyond the initial use. So if you are maybe minting an NFT on a certain platform, and that platform shuts down or you don't want to use it anymore, you can go and use it in a different application. which I think is really fun. The next method is off-chain storage. Now, a lot of NFT projects right now have to do on-chain storage because, like I said, it's inefficient and expensive to do it on the Ethereum blockchain. And basically, the way that this works is, there's a couple different ways, but you might build a sidechain that runs in parallel with Ethereum, and you'll store all that data on there, and then maybe submit proofs to the main chain to basically verify it. But most currently are doing this, again, because of storage limits. And the part of the way that this works is a part of that metadata that you include is something called the token URI. And this is essentially like a characteristic that tells the application where the data lives. So it's like a URL. You're basically saying, all right, here's the name, here's the description, here's where you can find the actual piece of data, the actual image itself. So you're basically telling the smart contract, this is where it lives, right? So you've got on-chain storage, off-chain storage, which basically requires either a sidechain or some other off-chain implementation, and you use the token URI to call back to it, right? To find the data. The next one you have is centralized servers, and this is the one we hate. So right now, pretty much everything we do on the internet is centralized. So you've got a big server or a group of servers that are hosted somewhere, and you've got people that connect to those servers, right? So servers like for Facebook and Google, they store all our data inside the server. So it would basically be that same concept, but there's a lot of risk in centralized storage. They can delete your data or change it if they want. If that platform goes offline, poof, there goes all your data, all your NFTs. And like I said, the devs can change it at will. So there's a large danger in centralized servers, but some people kind of see it as unavoidable right now because of the limitations of what blockchain can do in its current state. The last one, I find this so fucking cool. It's called the Interplanetary File System. And this is a new type of peer-to-peer protocol that allows for file storage and I think web hosting as well in an entirely distributed, decentralized way. So this is an open peer-to-peer file system. So much like our blockchains, basically when you store something on the IPFS protocol, it's distributed. It's kind of stored in a bunch of different places. So long as there's a single node in existence, your data will persist, right? And projects like Filecoin are trying to use IPFS to incentivize the storage of data. So in other words, I could run a Filecoin node and basically contribute to this just massive cloud storage network, and I'll get paid for it because I'm helping contribute to the network success overall, right? So this is basically how the 4 different ways that things are stored right now. This concept took me a hard time to grasp, but the essential concept is, you have these NFTs. They have metadata that are descriptive, and they also have data that tells the contract where the data lives, right? Feel free to stop me if you guys have any questions, by the way. So now that we kind of have a pretty good understanding of what an NFT is, where it lives, let's give you guys some examples, get you to kind of grasp this concept a little bit more tightly. So next I want to talk about the digitization, it's a hard word to say, of physical assets. Now that might sound like gibberish, but I promise you it will make sense. So physical assets, meaning real world goods, right? Things that are tangible, you can see, you can touch, you can feel, you can give to other people, you can taste. And there are a lot of limitations with what you can do with real world goods. They're not, if you want to trade it to somebody, there's you have to find a buyer, you have to go on the open marketplace, you have to meet physically, there's a lot of different things. And this could be anything from physical art, collectibles, sports memorabilia, which I think is going to have an absolute ball with NFTs. And you can digitize all these assets for the purposes of true ownership and authenticity. So, I think one problem, like especially in sports memorabilia space, is you might purchase a rare signed football or something like that, and it can be really hard to tell whether it's real or not. So if you had an NFT that was minted to basically be tied to that specific piece of memorabilia, it would be fully authentic and verifiable. And whoever held that NFT would be regarded as the true owner. So this does wonders for how for fraud. There are a lot of fraudulent activities out there that people make millions and billions, if not trillions, of dollars, basically in fraudulent activity. And this would be basically provable ownership of physical items. And that might come in the form of different things. It could be like a QR code that's, lasered in or etched on that particular item. And if you scan that QR code, you can see who the owner is. If the owner isn't you, then that's a problem. Or if the owner isn't who they say they are, it's a problem. You see what I mean? So you could very easily tell if something was stolen or, fraudulently created or something of the sort. So this extends to other areas too. And these things I think are even a little bit more obvious. Things like, let's see, like land titles or deeds, medical records, tax forms, all these records that are incredibly important kind of in our society that are not really all that safe. They're stored in centralized servers. They're owned and operated by people that aren't you. This would be a way for you to completely own these documents, also be able to transfer them and send them and move them incredibly quickly, and actually verify their authenticity. There's even a theoretical world where you might like sell your house and you literally code a smart contract to have like certain parameters on what you want the down payment to be, what you want the terms to be, and literally entirely code and automate that process and have it only execute once certain conditions are met. So I think a lot of this stuff is really cool. So basically all of these records can be digitized, but even more importantly, they will be unique. They will be unreplicatable, which is really, really valuable. So another great example for this, we talked about it earlier, like what Mark Cuban's doing, is event ticketing. We all hate scalpers. And we all hate, buying tickets that don't exist. People sometimes create fraudulent tickets. This happened a lot. I've been to a lot of Coachellas, and I definitely remember that there were people who were trying to get in with fake tickets. And this is an industry that deals with a ton of fraud and scalping. So imagine instead you have every single ticket when you make a purchase, maybe it mints an NFT, and that NFT belongs to you. And you can kind of do what you want with it. It's fully tradable. So you can go and sell it somewhere else, but the point is you can prove the authenticity, and it's all fully transparent too. They can see where those tickets are moving, what addresses they're going to, and it creates a much more transparent ecosystem for ticketing, which I think is going to be really valuable, which makes sense why Mark Cuban is exploring it. So all in all, NFTs and blockchain are really a solution for a wide variety of fraudulent activity. I mean, they could save huge sums of money in the future, and the digitization makes all of this far more efficient. It's easier to sell, it's easier to track. The accounting is basically built in. You can see exactly where things are going and how much they're selling for. It's pretty wild. So now that we've talked about some physical stuff, let's get into the digital art, because I think this is where everybody's like, huh? And trust me, I had a really hard time with the psychology of digital art. So this is obviously just the buying and selling of digital image. Buying, selling, just say images, right? And this could be anything from GIFs, memes. Oh my god. Videos, whatever, right? So any kind of digital art form. Now everybody's basically said or asked themselves, can't you just copy it? Like what is the value if I see a video, I can just watch it on YouTube, or I see a picture that somebody bought, I can just take a screenshot and now I have it too, right? Um yes and no. Now, remember we talked about that these items are fully transparent or fully immutable, and they're scarce and all that good stuff. But this is really hard to kind of wrap your head around. So there are two parts of this, and basically, this is the big difference. So in your NFT, you cannot copy this. So the actual NFT itself, which proves ownership, can't change it, can't copy it, can't do anything. The actual data, you can copy. So you kind of ask yourself, what are you actually copying though? You're just copying the surface level data of what it is. You aren't copying the ownership, which is really what's valuable. Um, you know, there is a lot of, there's a big psychological aspect to this, but you have to think about ownership, and kind of what it means to value ownership, and what creates value for items for yourself, right? We all own tons of unique objects, right? But what is the value we really get from the experience of owning those objects? They could be sentimental. They could be something really expensive, and maybe you just value it because it was expensive. I have there are many saxophones like my saxophone. There's tons of them. I only want mine because it's mine. It means something to me, and I give it value because it's important to me, right? We have tons of items that we don't even put on display that have value to us. So you really have to kind of do some soul searching and think about, what is it about certain items that I give value to it? Is it just the price tag? Sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes people buy high-end shit just because it's expensive, right? So when you talk about digital data ownership, there isn't really a big difference there. There's nothing inherently that gives any of that value. It's only valuable because other people are willing to purchase it. So all of these art sales, everything that's going on in the NFT space right now, is because people value this stuff. They think it's cool, they think it's exciting, and they kind of see it as an opportunity to get a momentum of like the alpha version, right? To get a memento of what they can remember from this time, right? So our relationships with items are what really give it value, and how we perceive values obviously different from person to person, but we can't make rules around that, really. You know what I mean? People are gonna find things valuable that they find valuable. That's kind of the end of it, right? So digital art right now is blowing up. Artists are making just absolutely stupid amounts of money, and they want that relic of the early days, right? On late February, an artist by the name of Beeple, he sold a GIF on, I think it was on OpenSea, for $6.6 million. A GIF for $6.6 million. I mean, it's absolutely wild to me, but there's definitely some strong psychological component to that, to owning that particular data. It's different. It's unique. It's not really something we're used to, which is why I think everybody's having a hard time understanding it. But that's okay, I think. I think a lot of this stuff is meant to change. And, once there's more opportunity to show off the stuff that you own, I think it'll start to be a lot more valuable. Like, imagine having a digital picture frame and you own like a specific moment in history, or like from a game or something like that. What was the GIF of? Is it Beeple crap? I don't know if it's Beeple crap. I just know Beeple. But the GIF, it's a political statement. It's like a animation, and it's like a fallen Trump, naked fallen Trump with like a bunch of shit written all over it, and people walking by. It's kind of wild. If you just Google Beeple, I'm sure you'll find it. But it's pretty interesting to see how this stuff is evolving. So I think one of the really cool projects that has come out that has been absolutely blowing up and kind of driving the space, called CryptoPunks. And these are randomly generated 8-bit like avatars. And they have all different kinds of styles of characters. There are aliens, there are monsters, and they basically minted 10,000 of these. And when they minted those 10,000, they sent them, or anybody could claim one at the time, right? There were basically 10,000 for anybody to claim. And after those 10,000s were claimed, the only way to get one now is to buy one on the open market. So people basically claimed them all and have been selling them for, some of them for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't really know why, but people like it. People think it's really cool. And it's kind of interesting to think about that. This was not like an artist or a company that wanted to make a profit. They just minted these things and kind of sent them out and let people get them, and now they're valuable. It's a strange deviation from what we're used to. It's something completely unique that I don't think any of us would have ever even thought to be a thing, right? So let's talk about some NFT platforms. So you guys can go explore and lose money by yourself. We can do an NFT thing on stream later, once I'm done with the show, if that's cool. So first let's talk about Rarible, which I mentioned earlier. And Rarible is a pretty unique platform. This is a digital marketplace for selling digital goods. And you can sell all kinds of stuff on here: art, memes, digital collectibles, music, in-game items, parcels of land in games. And they have introduced something called marketplace liquidity mining. It sounds really complicated, but it's not that crazy. And basically what marketplace liquidity mining is it's a function of their site that essentially allows you to earn the Rarible token. I think it's called the Rari token. And just by participating on the marketplace. So if you buy stuff, if you sell stuff, your activity basically entitles you to a percentage of their weekly sales. So rewards are distributed basically on a weekly basis based on weekly sales volume. So in other words, the more you participate, the more money you make, right? So if you're buying and selling a lot of stuff, you're going to constantly get rewarded in that rare token, the Rari token, right? And you can go and you can sell that for profit. So it's literally just a whole new way to earn money. Just buying and selling digital goods. Pretty fascinating, right? Another project called OpenSea is really popular. You can same kind of thing. It's another digital marketplace, peer-to-peer open digital marketplace. And it's very similar to Rarible. The difference is basically they have a different set of integrations, and they don't have that governance and reward system like Rarible does. But it's an open Web 3.0 marketplace, and you can access it via your wallet, just like I did Rarible. So I talked about this earlier. I minted my NFT on Rarible, but I can go sell it on OpenSea if I want. I just got to log in with my wallet. My NFT was already there. It already had its own page. That's fundamentally this concept that I was talking about, interoperability. I can take something out of something and go use it somewhere else. That doesn't exist right now. Your Facebook data stays on Facebook. You can't take it and go, play with it somewhere else. Imagine if you had a single, personal social media profile that allowed you to interact with every single social network. I think that would change everything, right? Other platforms, I mentioned it earlier, the ENS, the Ethereum Name Service. And what the ENS lets you do is you can basically it's like domain names. I can basically create an Ethereum name server for my particular address. So when I purchase an ENS, so I actually did this this week, I purchased generalmort.eth. And what I did was I took generalmort.eth and I basically replaced my wallet's address with it. So now I have a verifiable, unique username, essentially, that I can send to anybody to send me, if they want to pay me, or something like that. I think eventually be able to host actual websites on these domains. But this is like my identity now. Instead of my wallet, which is normally like 0x05AB, whatever it is, now I have generalmort.eth. I've basically kind of wrapped my address in something that is translatable and understandable, right? And this is tradable as an NFT. So when I log into Rarible and OpenSea, my domain name is there. My ENS is there, and I can sell it. I can sell it on Rarible and OpenSea if I wanted to. So you could go buy, I mean, probably not, because I'm sure people already have it, but if you bought google.eth or something, you can go and sell that. It's pretty interesting. So you kind of have a unified marketplace where you can distribute and sell domain names. The last platform I want to talk about, it's not really a platform, it's more like I guess it is. I mentioned it earlier. NBA Top Shots. Oh, I gotta move that. So NBA Top Shots is actually one of the big players in the scene right now. And they are doing millions of dollars in sales. And basically what they're letting you do is you can purchase a moment in NBA history. So if there was a really cool play that happened, you can physically purchase that play. You can purchase that video and basically have the rights to that video, to that NFT. And right now there isn't, a great way to display it, but imagine in the future, like I mentioned, you've got a digital frame on your wall. Somebody walks in your house and you've got a video of LeBron James dunking over somebody's head, and I don't know, maybe it won them a big game, and people walk in and they know that you own that moment. You bought that actual moment in history, which is pretty wild. And obviously, the argument to that is, can't I just go watch it on YouTube? Of course you can. But you can go watch it on YouTube, but you won't be able to say that you own that. There's a difference. We come back to that like psychological, the psychology of ownership again. You might want to buy that moment because it meant something to you. Maybe it was a big game. If I could buy the helmet catch from Super Bowl 42 of David Tyree catching it from Eli Manning on his head, like that would mean a lot to me. Because obviously because I'm a Giants fan, but the point is, like, there is value in that. There is. It may be hard to understand, but there absolutely is value in that kind of ownership, and saying that like I own this data, I own this moment. It's very cool actually. I think so. Let's talk about some games, because NFTs in video games I think is going to be absolutely huge. I really hate that keeps doing that. And I think this is just where games are headed inevitably. So I mentioned it 1 million times, so let's talk about CryptoKitties. So CryptoKitties initially, they were actually basically the founding father of the ERC 721 standard. They were one of the first NFT platforms around, and they were the source of serious congestion back when it launched. Gas fees went absolutely bonkers after CryptoKitties came out, because everybody was trying to buy them and sell them and get in early. And because of all those issues, they eventually left Ethereum and they built their own blockchain Flow, which is also what NBA Top Shots is built on. But now you have the CryptoKittyverse. And basically people have made games that allow you to port your kitties in and play them. There's like a Hearthstone clone out there. There's a trading card game. There's other like, they're kind of like Flash games right now, but you can take your kitties and you can actually go use them to do things. You can use them in games, and it's not like it's necessarily even CryptoKitties that's making the game. It's other people taking that asset and making a game around it. It's completely fucking backwards than what we're used to. It's totally crazy to me, and I think it's so cool, because like, for me, as a big gamer, a lot of my favorite games that I've played have all come with like really heavy modding communities, or the developers give certain tools out for people to build new things on top of it, like Warcraft 3. I mean, we basically got a whole genre of games and MOBAs out of Warcraft 3 because somebody made Dota. The same thing is happening here, but an even more open and distributed and democratized way, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. So another example is Gods Unchained. And these guys are doing some really cool stuff as well. Gods Unchained Simply put, Hearthstone clone. But there are some really big differences. So it's a trading card game. You battle with your cards, right? But the big difference is these cards are fully unique and tradable. So you can't trade your Hearthstone cards that you buy from Blizzard because they don't want you to. Um, but all the cards on Gods Unchained, they're all NFTs, and they all are fully tradable among players. Kind of like real life Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? Where I can actively sell that item to you, and you can use it in your game. You can use it to play, make you stronger, right? One of the coolest things that Gods Unchained has done is I don't know if they just launched it, but they are basically producing their own layer 2 scaling solution called Immutable X. This is a scaling solution using something called ZK rollups. And without explaining what ZK rollups are, all you really need to know is that this is going to scale up this whole thing and make it way faster, way more efficient, and way cheaper. So this is going to enable a lot more people to start building games on top of Ethereum, because previously, like I mentioned, there are those storage concerns. There's, a lot of different things that are making it difficult, the network congestion and the gas fees. And Immutable X is basically providing a universal solution to game developers to basically get involved and build games on Ethereum, which I think is just absolutely awesome. So next project I'll talk about is called Axie Infinity. And the best comparison is Neopets. If you guys are old enough, you remember Neopets. I fucking love Neopets when I was a kid. And it's a digital pet universe where you can play different games with your pets. And people are basically going to build new games where you can use your Axies and they can follow you into those games. Currently, they're selling like parcels of land inside of Axie Infinity for people to purchase, and some of them are going for like millions of dollars. I don't really get that, but it's happening, and it's pretty cool, and it's crazy. So, where does this all kind of lead long term? Like I said, I think NFTs and video games is going to be absolutely massive, and I think that for a lot of reasons. If you guys have ever played any MMOs or games with skins or items, you might have a whole kind of new type of economy where you are, it might be a player crafted driven economy where players are creating items and selling them on the open marketplace. And you might be a recognizable artist, and you might make a lot more money because people like your work. This is an entirely new type of economy, like I mentioned, and one where you can essentially play to earn. Imagine that. We've now gotten to a point where you can be an esport athlete and earn money, earn a wage. But imagine being able to just make money by playing the game. That is totally going to be possible and is absolutely going to happen in the future. And I think that's so incredibly fascinating to me. Right now, we have the relationships we have with different games and platforms and ecosystem. It's just from us to them. We don't get anything back these days because they don't have to. They own everything. Why would they give us anything back? We're paying to use their service. But we can create an actual kind of like self-fulfilling economy where, yeah, I'm paying for a service or paying to play the game, but I might also get something out of that. I might earn something out of that. It's an entirely different, type of interaction with a different platform or a game, right? So with that in mind, we talk about interoperability again and the metaverse. Now, metaverse is essentially a concept that allows assets or things to move in between each other, like the Marvel metaverse. Basically, you've got Marvel characters coming from different universes and coming into their characters, right, or into their universes. So this is basically possible because blockchain will be the new coordination layer for digital assets. It presents a kind of a new standard, a new way to build data and items and things that will be instantly transportable to other areas. So like I said, these assets are interoperable. They can go in and out of different ecosystems. This is now this could be a universal method for reading and writing data. So NFTs are going to be the building blocks for Web 3.0, much like how JPEG and PNG and HTML and CSS, how all these things were critical to Web 2.0 in building and displaying images and creating platforms on Web 2.0. NFTs are kind of that first foundational building block. It's kind of where we're headed, right? So, like I said, the metaverse is moving items between ecosystems. So you might have, let's say it's a digital sword, right? And you're playing a game, and this is this is an NFT, or maybe you minted the NFT, right? You can take this to, maybe it's a social network, it's a game, or maybe you just go and sell it on a marketplace. All without basically without having to do anything extra other than log in. It's so wild to me. I'm not like creating a new representation of an item in another game. No, that item is literally going to the other game because I'm logging in and it's in my wallet. So you will have within these ecosystems just brand new economies, new ways to make money and exchange value, which I think is so fascinating. There will be markets for assets that we can't even think of yet because they don't exist. That's super exciting to me. And users are going to be able to monetize the process. That's even more exciting to me. We're basically looking at a new way of interacting with platforms and ecosystems that is going to allow us to actually get something back for once, which I think is fucking great and very needed. So, quickly, just to sum up, I want you guys to kind of remember these core components. So, core components of NFTs. To reiterate, it is standardized. So basically a universal standard for things that can be created, different digital assets. It's immutable. Data cannot be changed or replaced or deleted. It is scarce. So you can create assets with a limited supply, or fixed supply, or increasing supply, or maybe it's just one singular unique asset, and you can actually prove that it's scarce. They're interoperable. I feel like I've said that word 5 million times today. They're tradable. And lastly, they are programmable, meaning that you can actually code your NFT to do specific functions based on certain conditions. So these are the core concepts. They're standardized, it's immutable, scarce, interoperable, tradable, and programmable. So what is the outlook for NFTs? I think you guys, it's pretty obvious that I'm very bullish on NFTs, but I think the future is really bright. I think even if it's not digital art, there are just tons and tons and tons of applications for these things. And all in a universal standard method that can be read by all different kinds of ecosystems and platforms. That's so insane. It's so crazy. It's just absolutely completely different than anything we know. And I think that's really, really exciting. And I honestly just can't wait to see how they're being implemented in the future. So that is pretty much all I got for you guys on NFTs specifically. Thank you guys all for joining me again today. I had a really good time doing this presentation. This is actually one of my favorite episodes so far. Please like, subscribe, follow, and all of that stuff. If you think your friends might enjoy it, tell them about it, because I would love to tell more people about this exciting technology. And be sure to check the info panel down below. You guys can follow me on Twitter, which is where I kind of spit all my bullshit. And as always, I'll be sticking around a little bit to hang out, talk about some things. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. And that is pretty much it. Thank you all so much. I will see you all next time. Thank you. Loved it. Thank you so